There is a sound you hear when you turn the kitchen light on in the middle of the night. A quick scatter. A dozen small bodies disappearing under the stove, behind the toaster, down into the gap behind the cabinets before your eyes have even adjusted to the light. And the worst part is not what you saw. It is what you know. That for every one you saw running, there were 100 you did not. Roaches do not live where you can see them. They live in the wall behind your stove, in the space under your dishwasher, in the warm, dark gap behind the refrigerator motor. And what runs across your counter at midnight is only ever the smallest piece of a much larger problem. You buy the spray. You buy the foggers that you set off and leave the house for the afternoon. You see bodies on the floor the next morning and you feel, for a little while, that you have won. And then a week later, the light comes on again and the scatter is back, sometimes worse than before. I want to tell you this morning why that keeps happening and what actually ends it. My name is Esther Yoder. I keep house here in Lancaster County with my husband and our 7 children. A kitchen feeding 9 people draws every kind of trouble a kitchen can draw. And over the years, I have learned which troubles answer to a fight and which ones answer to patience. Roaches answer to patience, and to one plain thing that has been sitting in your kitchen cabinet the whole time. Here is what the spray gets wrong, and once you see it, you will not unsee it. A roach colony is not really a colony the way ants are. There is no single queen to kill. It is closer to a family that breeds and breeds again, hiding in dozens of small pockets all through your walls and cabinets and under your appliances. When you spray what you can see, you kill what you can see. The ones in the wall, the ones in the motor housing of the fridge, the ones in the cracks behind the baseboard, never once touch the spray. They breed again next week. The fogger is worse in a way, because it only reaches open air. It does nothing for what is tucked into a crack, a 1/16 of an inch wide, which is most of where roaches actually live. What ends a roach problem is not something that kills on contact. It is something a roach carries home, the same as I taught you with the ants. Roaches are filthy in their habits in a way that works entirely in your favor here. They eat their own dead. They eat the droppings of other roaches. They groom each other and they crowd together in tight, dark spaces. A roach colony shares everything, constantly, without meaning to. And that habit is the door you walk through. What you need is boric acid, the plain white powder sold in the hardware aisle or pharmacy aisle for $2 or $3 a container. It is not the same thing as borax, though they sound alike and people mix them up. Boric acid is a fine powder, almost like flour, and it works differently than the sugar bait I showed you for ants. A roach that walks through a light dusting of boric acid picks the powder up on its legs and antennae. When it grooms itself, which it does constantly, it swallows the powder. And boric acid does 2 things to a roach once it is inside. It scours the lining of the digestive system, and it slowly poisons the nervous system. Neither happens fast. That is exactly the point. Because the roach does not die in the open where you dusted it. It walks back into the wall, back into the crack, back to the others. And because roaches eat each other's droppings and groom one another constantly, the powder spreads through the group the same way the borax spread through an ant colony. One dusted roach can carry boric acid to dozens of others before it dies. The whole hidden population, the ones you never see and never could spray, gets reached this way. Not through your effort reaching into the wall, through their own habits doing the work for you. Here is exactly how you use it, and the placement matters more than the powder itself. You want a very light dusting, almost invisible, not a visible pile. A heavy pile of powder a roach can see and smell and will simply walk around. A whisper of powder dusted into a crack they will not detect, and they will walk straight through it on their way in and out. Use a small spoon or an old makeup brush to work the powder into the places roaches actually travel. Behind the stove, where it meets the wall. Under the refrigerator, especially near the motor housing where it stays warm. Inside the gap where the cabinets meet the wall or the floor. Behind the dishwasher. Along the pipe openings under the sink, where they often travel between floors in an apartment or between rooms in a house. Keep it dry. Boric acid loses its effectiveness the moment it gets wet, so never put it anywhere it might get splashed or mopped. And keep it entirely out of reach of children and pets. It is low in toxicity to people compared to many pesticides, but it is still not something for little hands to find, and it should never go anywhere near food contact surfaces or dishes. Now I will tell you what to expect, because patience is the hardest part of this, exactly the way it was with the ants. You will not see fewer roaches the first few nights. You may see the same number, or what looks like more, as the dusted ones wander before they die and as others come out following the same paths. This is not failure. This is the powder working its way through the hidden population the way it is meant to. Most kitchens see a real and lasting drop within 1 to 2 weeks. A heavy infestation, the kind built up over months of an unseen problem, may take 3 to 4 weeks of consistent dusting before it is fully gone. One honest word, because I always give you one. Boric acid handles German cockroaches and American cockroaches, the two kinds you are most likely fighting in a kitchen. It is not a fix for a structural moisture problem, and if your kitchen has a persistent damp spot under the sink or a slow leak somewhere, fix that first. Because roaches are drawn to water as much as food, and the powder will only ever be working against a problem that keeps refilling itself. I want you to think for a moment about what the pest control companies sell for a roach problem specifically. Recurring monthly visits, sometimes $50 or $60 a visit, sometimes more, stretching on for as long as you own the house, because a roach problem in an older building rarely fully goes away on its own. A $2 or $3 container of boric acid, used correctly and with patience, reaches every hidden pocket a technician's spray reaches, and several the spray never touches at all, because the roaches carry it there themselves. There is no man deciding to keep this from you. There is simply no advertising budget behind a plain white powder that costs $3 and lasts a year. So here is what I would ask of you this week. Buy a small container of boric acid. Dust it lightly, almost invisibly, into the places I named: behind the stove, under the refrigerator, along the cabinet gaps, behind the dishwasher. Keep it dry. Keep it from the children. And give it 2 weeks before you judge whether it worked. Then come back down to the comments and tell me 2 things: what county you live in and how old your house is. Older buildings carry roach trouble differently than new ones, and I learn more from what you write down there than from anywhere else. And next time I will show you the pantry method that keeps the moths and weevils out of your flour for a full year without a single chemical near the food your family eats. The roaches are not winning because they are clever. They are winning because nobody told you how they actually live. Now you know.